Hi, welcome to the Canadian Punjab Times. Today we will be having a short conversation with Niki Sharma, Deputy Premier and Attorney General of BC. In this conversation, we talk about many issues ranging from educational to health to business. Please join us in this conversation and we hope you will find it insightful. Thank you.
My first question is, as U.S. President Donald Trump raised the issue for the fentanyl, right? It's a big issue from the last few years in the BC. As a report from yesterday is that 250 deaths in the BC because of the overdose. I just want to know what the BC government taking initiative to collaborate with the federal government to control the fentanyl crisis.
Yeah, for years now, the BC government's been facing a really tough crisis with the toxic drug supply and fentanyl and the amount of deaths. The news yesterday was that the death rate is down 13%, but it's still too high. It's too many people. We've been doing a whole range of things, whether it's getting people into treatment when they need it, cracking down on fentanyl, the drug dealers of fentanyl. We've had a few very high-profile busts where police have been after that. But we are open and willing to work together with the new fentanyl czar that will be there federally and continue the efforts. I mean, it's a really tragic and terrible issue that North America is facing when it comes to that, whether it's Mexico, the States, and Canada. So we do need to work together, and we're open to doing that.
Okay, with the federal government, are you guys taking initiative, any strategy to control it?
Yeah, we've had a lot of integration between the police. We have RCMP in parts of BC and VPD at different police forces out there. So we have a lot of integrated programs when it comes to drugs, illegal drugs on the street with the federal government and their policies. The premier was calling, and I think it's very needed, which is more security on our ports. I'm sitting very close to the port here in Vancouver, and it's a federal jurisdiction, and we've been calling on the federal government to just provide better screening and better security with what's coming into our ports. So we're hopeful that that will be one of the solutions that we've been calling for with the federal government that we know we need more of. And, we'll continue to be working with them with their new fentanyl czar. It's clearly a serious issue and something that we're concerned about as well.
It's related to this question is in the school these days is vaping is very common. And then when they go in the grade 12, they start the marijuana. Marijuana is illegal. And there's a lot of shop in the shopping malls. And kids, they're doing vaping very commonly in the washroom of the school. What the government and the school district taking initiative to stop these things?
Yeah, I'm very concerned about vaping and the rise, and so is the Minister of Education. And a lot of municipalities are trying to figure out how to regulate the storefronts of vaping that are showing up everywhere. You can expect that our government is going to take action on making sure that the marketing that's happening to young kids from the vaping companies, where they're located, and the rise in vaping. We were a government that led a nationwide lawsuit against tobacco companies for the impacts on their health and their marketing campaigns that caused harm to British Columbians. And we'll continue to do that work. I am also concerned about that. And we know that as a government, you can look for steps for us to take action on that.
And any collaboration with the school districts, because in the school are very common these days.
Yeah, it has to be a collaboration between the Ministry of Education. I'm hearing from municipalities, they want tools to be able to regulate the shops, the vaping shops. And there's also maybe some legal steps that we could take to protect youth. So we're looking at kind of all angles when it comes to that. I think we all need to be concerned about the rise of vaping. And then when companies are targeting and marketing young people, right, to addictive habits that are harmful to them, then that's it's a major problem.
I'm just asking particular about the schools.
Yeah, so we will have to work. Yeah, we'll have to work with we worked with the school districts recently about a cell phone ban during school hours. So how we did that as a federal government or as a provincial government is the Minister of Education said, by this certain date, you have to have rules in place about making sure that there's rules about not using cell phones while you should be learning. So we always have to, if we're doing anything on vaping or stepping up on that, we always have to work with the school boards that set the operational rules on the ground. But the Ministry of Education can do something like setting standards across the province for that.
And the next question is for the youth also, like control the social media. Ontario government is very strict for the social media using for the kids. And the BC government have any plan to regulate the social media?
Yeah, so we've already taken some pretty important steps. One of the things that young people were facing was this exploitation online. So the predators that show up online that force them to do these terrible things, and it can result in suicide. So we stepped up quite a bit for that. We now have a new legal process that helps protect young people from online, so they can protect themselves against somebody spreading images of them that they didn't consent to. Sexploitation, which is a big one that causes a lot of really high mental health and suicide rates in young people in the province. So we have way better legal tools now. So far to date, over 200 people have received help from our new legal service, which protects them from online exploitation. And we have a victim support services to help people if they're experiencing this online. It's really important to get the word out on that. That's the number one thing that young people are facing with bullying and harassment and different types of abuse that's showing up online. We need to do more on that. Making sure that cell phones are not in schools when kids are learning. I sat down with all the major cell phone companies at the end of our last mandate to ask them what they were doing on youth safety. And it's something I'm still very interested in. And if the federal government was about to regulate, they had an online harms bill that we were watching that was going to put strict rules on and oversight on social media companies. Unfortunately, with the prorogation that bill died on the floor. So we don't have any federal action. So it's definitely something that the province will have to fill in the gap for.
And what government taking initiative to decrease the backlog of the court cases?
Yes. So we put more resources into court systems. We needed more sheriffs to keep courts running. We needed more judges. I advocated to the federal government for more appointments on the provincial level as something I can do. So we are very close to having the full team of judges and sheriffs in our courtrooms, which is one of the reasons that things were delayed. We're also looking at very direct ways of speeding up processes. I've asked all the heads of the judiciary to work with me, so the different levels of court to work with me to figure out how we can make timelines for resolution go faster. Whether it's changing the way the process is set up. One thing we've done a lot of work on is with family law. So sometimes family law disputes can take a long time, and they're really hard on families, right? When you're going through custody battles or divorce and it takes a long time, it causes a lot of trauma. So we've put in early resolution processes that are seeing 90 to 80% success rate. So 90 to 80% of cases don't go to court because they were able to resolve them before they get there. And that takes time, that takes the pain and trauma away from families. So we're trying to continue on that work to target the system to figure out how we can make it better, and we'll keep doing that.
To last question, like many people here for the work permit and they have also family cases. Is it any legal aid available for them or for low cost for I'm asking about the especially work permit holder or the students?
Yeah, there's been a big challenge when it comes to people without certain status here in the country getting services. We've invested and supported programs like the South Asian Legal Clinic, which is out there to provide legal services to people when they need it. We've expanded family law legal aid. So there's legal aid clinics that are out there and legal aid lawyers. There's more of them now. We suspect with our expansion, there'll be up to 4,500 more people that can receive low cost or free legal advice. So we are working on that. It's really important that somebody gets legal advice at the right time. And it's better for them. It's better for us as a society, and it helps them protect their rights and reduces the harm. So there's a lot going on when it comes to that, including clinics like the South Asian Legal Clinic, which are open door clinics for people to come and get legal advice.
I know I'm just asking about like work permit holder and student case, because they come with a spouse and they have a lot of legal issues
Yeah.
and they are suffering. Just is there any support for them, student and work permit holder?
Yeah, there are a few legal clinics that help that are available for people that are in a work permit or have those issues. I would suggest if anybody has that there's an organization called Access Pro Bono that helps with free legal services that they should reach out to. There also are very local clinics, like the South Asian Legal Clinic I talked about, which will help for those issues, but also associated with immigrant services. We know there's a clinic that we help fund that helps with students, international students, and the challenges they're going through. That's with the ISS of BC. So there are resources out there for people that need that support at a time where they may be international students or their status is uncertain, but they're still facing legal challenges.
How the government helping the student and the work permit holder for the some of them, not all of them, like employer abusing them, where they can go? Can you let them know? Like,
Yeah, so it's a huge concern when I hear these cases, because oftentimes when I dig into it or when I hear about the stories, it's because the person didn't know their legal rights. They didn't know that they had an ability to push back, and they just took the word of either their employer or somebody else saying, and that was going against our legal standards. So it's the reason that we're investing in clinics like the South Asian Legal Clinic. They have a whole series of Know Your Rights, so they can reach out to people to get them the legal advice and legal resources they need. The systems have to work. That's the solution. We have to make sure that there are legal advice out there so people know that they can make complaints to Employment Standards Branch. They can make complaints to the Human Rights Tribunal. That these things are there to protect them when they're here in this country. And a lot of times it's getting the word out. So there's programs out there just to inform people that what their rights are so they know who to go and what to do if something's happening to that.
and about the government taking initiative to stop the gang activities, especially for the students like in the grade 11 or 12, because they more attracted to the go in the gangs. What the government doing for that?
Yeah, so my colleague Minister Begg has programs under his ministry. So it's to work with the police and work with schools to end gangs. So to get people or young people at the right age to change their path. We also have a youth justice system. So if there are kids that are getting into trouble at a young age, there's interventions and supports for them so they can hopefully change that path. We also know that one of the reasons that it happens is because of some experience they've had as a child that causes them trauma, and they need help with that. So we've expanded a program called Foundries, and Foundries are a mental health support program for young people, because we know if we can get to them at a young age, and something's happened to them, and you give them the support at that time, it can change their whole life, right? Because then they're getting that support at the right time. So we've expanded that across the province, that program, to get more kids the help they need at the right time.
And just to ask a question like regarding the ICBC, have a very few centers. Not like in Delta is a big municipality from Tawasan and Delta and Mission. They don't have a ICBC center, right? It's a loss of backlog. People have to wait for 2 to 3 months for the road test. Government like doing something for that to
Yeah,
make a lobby for that,
yeah. ICBC handles the operation, but I know that we've been
to make a lobbying.
yeah, we've been watching. I know the Minister Bag also watches that. That's under his ministry. I looked into it, and the wait times have gone down, and they're expanding service delivery, but they're still too high. So I think it's like 57 days wait for a road test now, and it used to be higher. So we are getting there, but there definitely need whether it's opening new offices. I know there were plans to expand their offices so they could have more in community resources, but their service plans are in their control, but we're watching to make sure that they're responding to wait times and getting services out there. So hopefully the progress continues on reducing those wait times.
Yeah, the last question is a food adulteration. there's lots of food adulteration, especially in the South Asian community. They brought up frozen food and no regularity in and expired food they are selling, and government can do something for that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Most of the food regulation is federal. So that's something that the federal government we rely on to actually set the standards of what the food products are in the stores. But one of the things the premier has asked me to do in this mandate is look at consumer protection. So we have a consumer protection office in BC that's there to protect consumers. So I'm just taking that file on now, but I'm really looking for ways that we can make sure that we're using whatever tool we have in the province to protect people when they show up as consumers. So that work is in progress right now. I know that food is a federal jurisdiction, but if there's anything we can do to protect people here, then I'm happy to look into that.
It's related to this question because many people want to invest in this food industry. They said it's lots of problems. They take like 2 to 3 years to get a license, and government can do to reduce the wait time. They can open the businesses here in the BC.
Yeah, it's a
In
good
the food,
question. I'm really
food
happy.
related.
If you hear directly from people that are experiencing that they're having holding barriers to getting licenses and starting businesses, one of the major focuses we have is reducing wait times for permits and getting supporting the economy and the growth of the economy. So I'm really happy to look at very specific cases that where the barriers are, so we can figure out how to remove them.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.